We do not, as a rule, really watch television. Even those who spend a lot of time in front of it, consuming program after program, do not really observe it. What we are almost always doing, in fact, is listening. Sound and image are given whole. They make sense together. Whether the program is really stupid or sublime, we take it in block. We listen, and we see. We do not scrutinize the images and their strangeness. Start by cutting out the sound and watch. First of all, you'll be invaded by the sense of the ridiculous. There is something risible about them. Those people debating, gesticulating, and getting heated for no reason. Those voiceless singers. The ads without music or enthusiasm. But there's worse to come. Underneath the ridiculous, at varying depths and densities, lies terror. Something mechanical, fixed, and in human habits, these faces, vainly moving their lips and filling their cheeks. Something different from death, the coldness of corpses, their white immobility, instead an agitation emptied of life. A vain effort to escape the void. A movement that keeps canceling itself. But you must get beyond that too. Beyond the horror and beyond the comedy. Stop laughing and stop frightening yourself. Move forward gingerly between the ridiculous on the one hand and the mechanical on the other. Look at them for what they are. These soundless images, at bottom they are insipid, savorless, neutral and empty. Even TV can lead us to wisdom.
You like your friends to call you, to know that your family can reach you, that your clients ask for you, and that your colleagues keep in touch. We are all pretty much alike in this, but sometimes we may feel disturbed and then irritated by a ringing phone. The way it can intrude at any moment, interrupting an activity, wrecking a conversation or meditation. Leave the phone off the hook. Switch off the mobile. Make sure nothing can ring. For as long as need be. Don't busy yourself too quickly, and don't hurry to make use of this moment of guaranteed quiet. Sometimes it brings real satisfaction. There are people trying to reach you, and they can't even leave a message. Just because I prefer my own comfort and their demands? Can I justify this? Sometimes it creates anxiety. It may seem a kind of revolt, a tiny rebellion against the age of permanent connection. It has become so normal to be online, so indispensable to be connected, that cutting the wire can appear like closing a door and leaving.
In the past, the fleeting detail was lost forever. A movement of the hand, a furtive look, the shadow of a smile, an inflection of the voice, a certain light. Everything sank without trace, along with 1,000 other such tiny realities, into an ocean from which nothing could be recovered by anyone. We have invented detail machines that can capture such instants, fix the tiniest spot, preserve sounds and profiles. They made their appearance not so long ago, but we have gotten used to them so quickly that now we take their existence and their power for granted. Or nearly. The experiment consists in rediscovering the power of these techniques, In fact, we do so every day without thinking about it. By listening to the radio or to podcasts, watching television or videos, photographing, recording voices, faces, images, etc. This time, let us think about it, about how these machines, in their very special way, can snatch ephemeral moments from the march of time. Try to remember this when you next look at a photograph or listen to a song. And the next time you yourself record a snatch of life, remind yourself that you are seizing a tiny sliver of existence from time. Think of a paradoxical hourglass that sieves the dust of hours into a kind of eternity. Instant after instant, what would have disappeared forever is now available and can be replayed any number of times. The fugitive and the ephemeral are flowing permanently toward the eternal. Ask yourself how all this will end. The answer doesn't matter.
Writing is not an intellectual activity. It is first of all a manual exercise, preeminently so, perhaps. One's thoughts and the supposed or imagined communications one inscribes on the paper are arguably far less important and of less interest than the attention required to form letters beautifully, tracing their contours precisely and aesthetically, playing with the tiny balances of curves and uprights, loops and dots. To try this out, you should begin with writing out the first sentences that go through your head, however banal, but in doing so, write with perfectly regular rhythm, without pausing. Once again, what matters not is not the content of what you're writing. That is of secondary importance. The only thing worthwhile is the regularity of the characters, their measured forward movement, and the fact of inscribing, in order, joined-up letters that are well-formed, legible, proportionate, distinct. Concentrate your attention on the precise and tiny movements of your muscles and the brief trajectories of your pencil or your pen. Try as far as possible to avoid stopping between two sentences. Keep up the same rhythm. What you write doesn't matter. The act of writing is enough. Try not to speed up or slow down. Your script should be polished and clear, but equally. In its forward movement, it should be steady, monotonous, and fluid. Try to attain a constant speed and almost perfect automatic continuity. Once again, the only thing that counts here is the fact of your covering the paper, inexorably, and with an application less and less dependent on your willpower, with horizontal lines made up of an obstinate succession of letters and words. You can write about anything that occurs to you: childhood memories, shopping lists, novel insults, a parody police report, holiday postcards, intimate confessions, a love letter, a tax return, an eyewitness account of an accident. Whatever you choose, it is vital that you worry as little as possible about what the sentences mean. Whatever your sentences say, you should consider them merely as vehicles enabling the forward movement of your script. The experiment consists in sensing how the forward movement of writing, the calligraphy covering page after page, is quite indifferent to what the sentences mean. On the one hand, there's the whole maelstrom of ideas, of syntax and sentiment, of meaning that teem and proliferate, of harmonies and discords. On the other hand, but does an on the other hand really exist? We have the regular pulse of script, fantastic, almost pure, automatic, secreted by nothing other than the necessity of going forward, by the repeating regularity of being insistently identical to itself. You may then come to feel that everything we believe we are saying or think is double, over and beyond the transmission of an achieved meaning at once already known and preeminently available. You may get a glimpse of the secret permanence, the inexhaustible source, impossible to discern, at the heart of this flowing script carried forward by its own momentum. It has nothing to do with what the words mean. It is completely indifferent to what texts transmit in terms of information, ideas, feelings. Scripts, nothing but scripts. Traversing bodies, thoughts, muscles, sheets of paper, the interminable flux of writing.
At any moment, we can die suddenly. Think, therefore, as so many of us do, how you risk death when you take a plane, or when you set out in your car on a long journey, or when the train pulls out. You can also get killed by a bus, a truck, a car, even a motorcycle. Implausible accidents lie in wait for you everywhere and at every second. In fact, when you think about it coldly, you have no reason not to fear imminent death. If you choose to discount such a hypothesis, it isn't just because the thought is none too pleasant, but above all, because the probability of it actually happening seems very slim. And rightly so. Your chances of still being alive in an hour, and even tomorrow, are relatively good. So why worry about an improbability? The only snag is that your death is certitude. Not the day, not the hour, agreed, but it is absolutely inescapable, guaranteed, without fail and without exception. You must therefore imagine your own death, its necessity. Try to visualize your deathbed agony, your corpse, your burial, your rotting body, your skeleton. Visualize the tomb with its horrible liquids. Understand that you will never see the light or the curving earth again. You'll have finished forever with its warm winds, its wetness, its flashes of color, its scents. You'll know nothing of flesh to have or to hold. It may be that you find these ideas upsetting. You will doubtless be relieved to know that your distress is absurd and in fact without foundation. You are dead, otherwise you wouldn't be buried and in the process of rotting. At the same time, you're still alive and capable of being affected by feelings and emotions. Therein resides your error. These images exist in your head now and in your living body. When you're dead, they'll no longer exist. We cannot imagine ourselves dead. Thinking about it can only ever be an activity for the living. Your whole imagination belongs with life. However morbid and dismal, however full of cobwebs and coffins, it has, strictly speaking, no line with death. It has nothing to do with it. Does that reassure you? Clearly not. But you will have glimpsed one of the differences between life and philosophy. The former panics, is moved, gets impatient and agitated. The latter remains convinced that everything will work out if only we think about it in the appropriate way, which is false, or at best, approximate.
First, gauge the seriousness of your addiction. Do you consult your watch 3 times a day? 4 times an hour? Much more often? You probably don't even know, and your guesses are wide of the mark. Begin with this objective test. If you consult your watch at least once every quarter of an hour, this experiment is for you. It consists in living in your normal life, if possible, without wearing your watch. Start out for relatively short periods and when you are not racing against the clock. For instance, an afternoon at home on your day off. Then little by little, try going watchless more daringly when you go out or to a meeting for work. Strictly speaking, you should refuse all chance succor in the form of traveling clocks, kitchen clocks, public clocks, and parking meters, or the digits showing the time on your computer. You should try, on the contrary, to settle fully into the slight disconcerting queasiness provoked by not having the time on you. You will feel the strange bareness of your wrist and the mild dizziness of not knowing what has happened to. But happened to what? The sense of security provided by chronometers of all kinds? The alibis of accuracy? You feel more or less intensely and more or less lastingly a sense of unease. The world is not its normal self. It has slipped its frame and floats out of time. If you persist, if you discipline and habituate yourself to going watchless, you should discover another form of perceiving time, internal and organic, relaxed, exact, but not neurotically so. You will end up by learning to tell the time by your internal clock, without even needing to think about it. This in turn may lead you to meditate on the particular and completely relative form of violence and constraint imposed on us by dials, clock hands, and timetables.
At any moment, we can die suddenly. Think, therefore, as so many of us do, how you risk death when you take a plane, or when you set out on a long car journey, or when the train pulls out. You can also get killed by a bus, a truck, a car, even a motorcycle. Implausible accidents lie and wait for you everywhere and at every second. In fact, when you think about it coldly, you have no reason to not fear imminent death. If you choose to discount such a hypothesis, it isn't just because the thought is none too pleasant, but above all because the probability of it actually happening seems very slim. And rightly so. Your chances of still being alive in an hour, or even tomorrow, are relatively good. So why worry about an improbability? The only snag is that your death is a certitude. Not the day, nor the hour, agreed. But it is absolutely an electable guarantee, without fail and without exemption. You must therefore imagine your own death, its necessity. Try to visualize your deathbed agony, your corpse, your burial, your rotting body, your skeleton. Visualize the tomb with its horrible liquids. Understand that you will never see the light or the curving earth again. You'll have finished forever with its warm winds, its wetness, its flashes of color, its scents. You'll know nothing of flesh to caress or bite into. It may be that you find these ideas upsetting. You will doubtless be relieved to know that your distress is absurd and, in fact, without foundation. You are dead. Otherwise, you wouldn't be buried and in the process of rotting. At the same time, you're still alive and capable of being affected by feelings and emotions. Therein resides your error. These images exist in your head now and in your living body. When you're dead, they'll no longer exist. We cannot imagine ourselves dead. Thinking about it can only ever be an activity for the living. Your whole imagination belongs with life. However morbid, vampire-ridden, however full of cobwebs and coffins, it has, strictly speaking, no link with death. It has nothing to do with it. There is only one universe. It has no outside. The thinking we do about our own outside is done from inside us and tells us nothing about the outside. Does that reassure you? Clearly not. But you will have glimpsed one of the differences between life and philosophy. The former panics, is moved, get impatient and agitated. The latter remains convinced that everything will work out if only we think about it in the appropriate way, which is false, or at best approximate.